I'm back, Biff.
For uncompromising power. Or explore the brand new Corolla Cross with available all-wheel drive and more cargo room than ever. Visit your Toyota dealer today or go online to buyatoyota.com, the official website for deals. Hurry, offers end January 31st. Toyota, let's go places.
Plumbers and Steamfitters Local 83 want to thank the owners and contractors of the Ohio Valley for using their locally trained workers to help build for the future. Local 83 helps design, fabricate, and build the gas infrastructure for the oil and gas industry here in the Ohio Valley. Plumbers and Steamfitters Local 83 is 300 members strong and growing. They also do residential, commercial, and industrial work on both sides of the river. For more information, call Plumbers and Steamfitters Local 83 at 304-233-4445.
Being young protects us kids from a lot of things.
Like paying bills.
And boring meetings.
Blech. But there's one big thing being young doesn't protect us from. That's COVID.
Since August, COVID has made an average of 100,000 kids a week sick.
But now, kids 5 to 11 can get a vaccine tailored to give us the best protection.
For me.
For us.
For kids.
We can do this. Find a vaccine near you at vaccines.gov. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Stand by. You're back to live and local programming in moments on the Watchdog.
Mostly cloudy skies for your Wednesday. Hello, everyone. From the Watchdog, I'm Darnell Foster. A few scattered showers and maybe even a rumble of thunder before it's all said and done, with a daytime high near 42. We'll see rain mixing in with a few wet snowflakes through the overnight. The overnight low is 18 degrees. Mostly cloudy skies around for your Thursday, with highs in the upper 20s. Have yourself a great day, everyone. From the Watchdog, I'm Darnell Foster.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of this station or its sponsors.
Good morning, friends.
What are you up to this morning?
To go for a little butter popcorn right now.
Why is that?
It is National Popcorn Day.
Popcorn, anyone?
Is that popcorn?
Popcorn. It's a national treasure.
I had to stand there eating buttered popcorn.
Popcorn?
This is incredible popcorn.
A little piece of popcorn stuck in my tooth. Ooh.
Happy National Popcorn Day.
Okay, everybody, it's showtime.
On FM, on AM, online, on demand, and on video. We are where you are. The Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe is here now.
degrees, Wheeling, Ohio County Airport. 36 degrees here at my home studios in the Elm Grove section of Wheeling, and 36 degrees at the Robinson Auto Group Studios, downtown Wheeling. In the heart of the Ohio Valley, we're looking for a daytime high around 42. Some rain could come in the early afternoon, and then we'll see a little bit of snow. See the rain turn to a bit of snow later on. Aaron says not much to worry about. It's just going to be a little light coating. Maybe in some spots could see as much as an inch, but more likely just a very light coating, nothing to worry about. But if you see a little bit of snow, don't say we didn't warn you about that. And that's going to be a cold few days after today. Temperatures in the mid-20s during the day and down to single-digit overnight lows on the thermometer, which will put them at probably 0 or below on the feels like. So it's going to be a cold couple of days today. National Popcorn Day. Hey, Biffy, are you a popcorn fan?
Love popcorn.
92% of Americans say they love popcorn. 8% say they hate it. Why you'd hate popcorn? It's pretty much a true American thing. I can't imagine going to the movies without popcorn, you know? If you're going to go to the theater, popcorn with what, Biffy? What's the popcorn got to have on it?
Oh, butter, salt.
Butter and salt. I mean, if you don't, and I don't care what your low sodium diet is, what my low sodium diet is, but I got to tell you, I need slathered in butter and lots of salt on it. Baby. Butter and salt, obviously the number one choice for toppings of popcorn, followed by white cheddar. Folks like white cheddar. Caramel corn, kettle corn also rank high in our popcorn ranking. This is interesting. I wouldn't have guessed this. Women like popcorn more than men. Our favorite kind of popcorn, movie theater popcorn. I don't know what the difference is. You know, it's like getting a ballpark hot dog compared to a hot dog in your own home. Somehow the ballpark hot dogs are always better. Movie theater popcorn is always better. I don't know why. But it is.
You know where else popcorn?
If we're making popcorn at home, our favorite I'm sorry, what, Biff?
I was going to say, you know where else popcorn is better is if you go, especially now during basketball season, some of the away places that at high school gyms, the concession stand popcorn in some places is unbelievable.
It's like anything else when they make it. When you're not the one making it, it always tastes better. I don't know why. When we do make it, our favorite popcorn brands are Orville Redenbacher and Pop Secret. Okay. Let's see, anything else here on my popcorn notes? Popcorn can shoot 3 feet into the air when it pops if you don't have a lid on it. Interesting. And popcorn can pop in 2 basic shapes, the butterfly shape or the mushroom shape. Mushrooms when the whole thing looks like one round, fluffy cloud. Okay, never paid attention to the shape of the popcorn. I just like to eat it. Anyway, celebrate National Popcorn Day. Bob Ney coming up in a minute, but first it's time for our morning Capital Report from our friends over at Metro News. What's going on down in Charleston this morning?
This is the Metro News Capital Report, brought to you by AARP West Virginia. AARP is your ally for real possibilities in the Mountain State. Connect on social media at AARPWV or learn more at aarp.org/WV. Today's report in 60 seconds.
AARP is your ally for real possibilities in the Mountain State, a wise friend and fierce defender for everyone in West Virginia as you get older. With 250,000 members and communities in all 55 counties, AARP is working every day for you. We have financial tools and health guides to help make sure the good things in your life live as long as you do. We're working to protect your hard-earned money, sharing tips and tools to help you spot frauds and scams. At the same time, AARP is advocating on behalf of West Virginians 50+ and their families at the state capitol. Every day, we're supporting family caregivers, fighting for things like better high-speed internet access across the state. And we're sharing the latest coronavirus information to help keep you and your family safe. Everyone in the Mountain State needs someone in their corner. That someone is AARP. For more information, connect with us on social media at AARP West Virginia or find us online at aarp.org/WV.
State Supreme Court Chief Justice John Hutchison will appear before the House Finance Committee later today with the court's proposed budget for next fiscal year. Hutchison told members of the Senate Finance Committee Tuesday the court is seeking a 5% increase in its budget. Part of that increased cost is the creation of the new Intermediate Court of Appeals. Hutchison says the three-judge court will hear appeals from various locations.
In an attempt to try and make access to justice more of a real thing, we are trying to locate around the state at least 5 satellite locations that would be set up as remote courtrooms.
The Supreme Court is also seeking money for merit raises for some of its workers. A bill backed by State Treasurer Riley Moore would keep anti-fossil fuel banking institutions from getting any of the state's money. Moore says 16 other states are considering similar legislation.
This is law now in Texas. Indiana is going to take up a similar bill this month. I think it's this week or the following week. They're taking it up as well. There are several other states that are looking at this.
House and Senate floor sessions are set for 11 this morning. I'm Jeff Jenkins on Metro News, the voice of West Virginia.
It's 8:17 here on the Watchdog Morning Show. It's a Wednesday morning. All this week we have been taking a look at Joe Biden on his first anniversary as president. It was Thursday, January 20th of last year, that he took the oath of office. It wasn't a Thursday then, but it was January 20th of last year that he took the oath of office. So we've been taking some time this week to reflect on Joe Biden's first year, kind of give him a report card, if you will. And I've invited our various and sundry political analysts to come and offer their opinion. Today it's time for us to talk to former Congressman and former WVOY talk show host Bob Ney. Bob, good morning. Welcome to the show, as always.
Good morning. How are you?
Bob?
I had my button off. There I am.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Well, you get an extra cup of coffee, or what were you doing there? Cleaning the coffee cups?
Yes, I actually was getting the cup of coffee, and I do. The one mug broke, but I do use the other mug I had, which is the younger version of you. And I drink when I talk to you, I drink coffee out of it. So.
Well, all righty then. So let's get to it. How has Joe Biden done this year?
I'm going to give him a C- for surviving. Is what I'm going to give him, I guess.
Okay.
With Omicron came, and he didn't pass. He did pass the infrastructure bill, and that was a bipartisan bill. He can't pass any of the rest of them. I don't totally blame that on him, by the way. That's why people are probably like, why don't you give him a D or an F? It hasn't been a stellar year. He hasn't. I don't think he's been the old Joe Biden that would kind of carve a deal together and get a few Republicans under the belt, because I think the progressives won't have it. And the Manchin thing, I know they're trying to, maybe get a primary against Manchin. Good luck. But on the Manchin and Sinema deal, I more look at that as, couldn't Chuck Schumer and the president, the president tried, but Schumer was worse. Can't they count? What do they not know about, a problem with those two? So as a result, I think it's been more than a flat year. The inflation, I know the White House says, well, he's not responsible. You know how this runs. Gas prices go up. They blame any president. They go down. They give presidents credit.
Well, yeah, you get blamed or you get the credit for whatever happens on your watch, whether it's your fault or not, and that's true no matter who the president is. I think there are a lot of positive things that have happened during this year. I do want to go back, though, to this whole business of trying to ram through some of these bills. The Build Back Better is sort of the example, maybe this voting rights bill right now, that clearly are not going to do it. Your question, can't they count? There seems to be some kind of a belief that somehow they're going to get Joe Manchin, and Sinema as well, but Joe Manchin, to change his mind. And I know Joe Manchin well enough that he's pretty well entrenched in this now. He's not going to change his mind. He's not going to vote to change the filibuster. He's not going to vote for the Build Back Better bill in any form like it was to begin with. And I don't know why they keep trying it. Would it not be wiser to just say, okay, we'll do something else?
Oh, sure.
Jim Carville this week. Go ahead.
To have split it apart, Howard, and taken parts of it and forced a vote, they probably would have then, on certain things, have gotten some votes out of them.
James Carville this week said, first place he called them whiny Democrats. So typical for James Carville, but I think that's true to some extent. And he said, stop talking about what you haven't been able to do, like Build Back Better or the voting rights, and start talking about what you have done, infrastructure, other issues that you've managed to achieve on this, and just stop being whiny. I think he's got a pretty good point.
Well, he does. Here's the other thing. This is what, I served with Chuck Schumer. I served in the Congress. We all know how anybody that's served there knows how the system goes for the most part. And I'm looking at this thing, and I'm like, who on earth are coming up with these decisions? And again, reason I don't give the president a D or an F is because a lot of this right now is out of his hands because Schumer's running the show in the House. Nancy Pelosi runs it better in the Senate. I mean, I don't care what people think about Nancy or they don't like her or something. She runs it better in the Senate. And because, she counts votes and brings out what she's, going to pass. But the president's having to, deal with progressives, et cetera. Here's what baffles me, though, Howard. If you're sitting there and you're Schumer, and today he's announcing, well, we're going to do the filibuster vote even if it fails, Well, then do that earlier in the year. Take Build Back Better and throw it up for a vote. And if it fails, people are on record who voted for or against it, or the filibuster. Throw it up for a vote. Don't sit for a year and then say, well, now we're going to take the things we don't think we can pass and take them for a vote. I don't get it. I think you make a great point. Build on what they have done. They have had some bipartisan efforts, and they have, they had the infrastructure bill. That kind of got voted on, and then they went to the next thing that they weren't going to win. It was strange.
I've been quoting Mitt Romney all week. Mitt Romney said over the weekend that he thinks the Democrats, Joe Biden and the Democrats in general, miscalculated that somehow they thought they were elected to bring about big transformational change in this country. And in point of fact, using Romney's words, they were just elected to stop the crazy. Joe Biden got elected because we needed to get Donald Trump out of office. We wanted to stop the crazy. But there was not, maybe I'm wrong, there was not a mandate for sweeping, transformational, progressive change. Could we have achieved some of it incrementally? I think yes, but it was not a mandate for change. All that the American public wanted was, God help us, get rid of Donald Trump. That's what put Biden in office. And I think Biden himself has kind of lost track of that. And I think that progressives never had sight of that. They somehow thought they were there to bring about big change. And that's not what the public put him in there for.
Well, and I take Romney's statement to go a little further even. I look at Romney's statement not that he's not just relating it to Trump. He said to stop the crazy. I think he wanted to relate that to the far, far, far right and the far, far, far left, I always try to sum it up that the far, far, far right, and I'm going way over because there are liberals who are not the far left or the conservatives that are not the far right.
Sure.
But the far right is concerned about conspiracy theories and power and national power and things like that. And the far left, they care what gender Mr. Potato Head is. And I use a different. If we were sitting having lunch, I would give that to you in a different way. But anyway, I think that also Romney means that both sides of the extremes were going to be told, go take a breath because we're going to, do things a different way. And I agree with you. I think that the progressives have been all down Biden's back too, pushing this and pushing that. I'm going to throw something out here that I'll probably be rated for eventually on Facebook today, but I think if the House and the Senate rolls to the Republicans, you may actually see a Gingrich-Clinton type of rebirth where Biden is kind of free to cut a deal here and there.
Well, that's possible. I mean, I think that's possible. I think part of that depends on whether Biden gets his sights set back on reality or whether it seems to me his speech last week, for example, on the voting rights bill, seemed to be more of a hardliner speech than I have expected from him. I think Biden as the individual, Joe Biden needs to be the conciliatory figure. Now, we're not going to get compromised. Anybody who thinks we're going to get compromise is ridiculous. Mm-hmm. But we still don't have to be, we don't have to stick it in their eye. Does that make sense to you? I mean, we don't have to stick it in their eye all the time.
Well, Senator Durbin, the number 2 guy of the Senate, very political guy. I served with Durbin. He said it best. That they asked him about the president's speech down there, and he said, "I think he went a bit too far, because it made a lot of people cringe. It sort of puts you in the whole category. You do what he wants, or you're part of the KKK." And so, I think the president's playing to an audience. Look, if in the day when I was in Congress, if you would say to me, you want to get your bill passed, you looked at certain names, and you looked at McConnell on the Republican side, obviously, but you looked at Senator Dodd, who's a very good friend of President Biden's, and you looked at Joe Biden. That's what if you had Dodd and Biden with you, wow, guess what? You're going to do pretty good. So, yes, he was the conciliatory kind of go-to guy. And I don't think it's so much maybe his decision as much as he's been pinned into a corner also, maybe by the progressives.
Well, I also think Biden and Joe Manchin, too, quite frankly, are creatures of a day that's gone by. Creatures where real compromise was possible. And I don't know that can we get some agreement on a few minor matters? Maybe. My argument, I think I've made it to you, Bob, I made it on the air numerous times. In order to come up with a compromise, both sides have to see the same problem and then just have different ways to solve it. So if we begin with the Democrats see problems that they're trying to correct, whether it's with Build Back Better, the voting rights bill, they're trying to fix a problem. As a general comment, Republicans on Capitol Hill, they're not looking to fix a problem. They're looking to stop the Democrats from having success. So they're not working to the same goal. And therefore, it's hard to compromise because there's no such thing as compromise with the Republicans when what they want is the other guy to fail. And I think that's what we have right now. And I think Manchin doesn't yet understand that. Joe Manchin's a creature of compromise. That's the way he was when he was in his as governor. I mean, he was a tremendously good compromiser. And that's what Joe Biden was during his time in the Senate. And I don't think we live in that world anymore.
I think it is a different world. I mean, I take, my legacy bill was HAVA, Help America Vote Act. My sponsors were Ted Kennedy and Mitch McConnell. Let's try to repeat that kind of scenario today. I don't even think the bill would second hearing.
I'm not sure I even want to say those two names in the same sentence, let alone get them on the same bill.
Right. And I had the support of Maxine Waters in the House. I mean, you look at it and you're like, okay, could you even do that today? And it was a major election reform bill again, and now they can't even get to the John Lewis bill, which is frankly a compromise bill, John Lewis bill. So, yes, I guess it is a different era, but I keep thinking that, I don't know, maybe something will click. But right now, the two political parties are pretty polarized, and the Republicans are just kind of sitting back and letting the Democrats have their own civil war.
Yeah, I was literally just about to say, the problem I see is Democrats are their own worst enemy right now. They are their own worst
Correct.
enemy. And Republicans are happy to let them be that way. So you give Joe Biden for his 1-year anniversary report card a C-, huh?
Mm-hmm. Just because of, did that surprise you?
No, that's about what I would expect. I give him a B-. I think he did a little better than you're suggesting, but
yeah.
I give him a B-. He certainly is by no means, he doesn't deserve an A. If I was a teacher, I'd say, oh, no, sir, you don't deserve an A.
Correct, and I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt on a couple of things, and then, of course, Omicron, popped up, and everybody says they're going to end the virus, and then there's a brand new one, so that was... but now for the mechanics of how the Democratic, I'll give the Democratic side an F for the whole mechanical, I call it mechanical side of things. Bring a bill up, which bill comes up, where's the votes? Man, I shouldn't say the House, but the Senate Democrat side and the White House planning strategy, man, that one goes down the tubes. They need detention for that one.
Quick comment on something else we've talked about here this week. Wall Street Journal article last week suggested this. We talked on this show earlier this week with Marjorie Margolis, former congresswoman, and of course Hillary Clinton's sister-in-law. Mm-hmm. And there's just a little touch of rumor going on around there that maybe Hillary ought to run again. What do you think about that?
Well, Marjorie's ex-husband, by the way, I used to wave hello to him every morning. He was in Morgantown. That's the best kept secret on earth.
I knew. I was waiting for the shoe to drop. That would be at the federal prison. Yes.
Oh, yeah. I'd say hi. In fact, one day I said, all rise, just like they do in the House, and he started laughing. And, of course, the guards almost put him in the solitary confinement for laughing. But anyway, he was in prison. But as far as, of course, Marjorie running, that wouldn't work. But Hillary can't run. It's done. That's whoever is bringing that up, I don't know.
Yeah, I just think there was a Wall Street Journal piece suggesting that last week, and I read it somewhere else as well. To me, that's ludicrous, absolutely ridiculous. I mean, Hillary
Clinton. Bring Sarah Palin back, then.
Well, personally, I'd rather have her back.
I know why. Right.
All right, Bob. Hey, I appreciate your input as always. Good
we
talking
get
to you, my
bold
friend.
when we leave office, don't we?
Yes,
right.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Real quick, how's your dad doing?
Doing pretty good, 98 and a half, and doing pretty good. He, hasn't caught COVID and hanging in there. Thanks for asking. He asks about you, so yeah, he's doing pretty good.
I see him on Facebook every once in a while. Seems like playing cards.
Yes, he does. We are regular weekend card players. Yes, my mother's first word was card. Honestly, when she was a kid. Yeah.
Tell your dad I asked about him.
Thank you. I sure will. Thank you.
All right, Bob. Talk to you soon. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Former Congressman, former WVOY talk show host Bob Ney. We're doing sort of an assessment of Joe Biden 1 year later. Tom Scudieri yesterday gave Biden a B-. Bob today gives him a C-. Tomorrow we'll talk to our contributing political analyst, Matt Robeson, a former congressional staffer, former campaign consultant. I think Matt's going to go for an A+. I think that's a hard grade to sell, but we'll talk to Matt about it tomorrow. We'll talk about sales tax cuts in West Virginia and other matters in the legislature with the Senate Minority Leader, Stephen Baldwin. That's coming up next here on the Watchdog Morning Show.
Now it's time for your local news headlines from 7 News.
blue, raz, and strawberry.
Will be champions today.
In the mo.
Texas, and they'll take on one of the surprise teams in the conference on Saturday afternoon, the Red Raiders of Texas Tech. Final score once again, Baylor 77, West Virginia 68. That is today's Mountaineer Report, brought to us by Kroger, the official grocer of WVU Athletics. I'm Tony Caridi on the Mountaineer Sports Network from Learfield.
I'm not buying till I checked on Ford.
Most of us are faced with uncertainty every day. Your job, your finances, sporting events, schooling for your children, and so much more. With so
Okie dokie, thank you. I didn't see him, was he? I watched a bit of the game, but didn't see any of the interviews. So. Not a happy coach. Well, when he's frustrated, there's no question you know it because he doesn't hide it.
Or Google Play Store by searching WTRF.
if you need local news, you trust WTRF TV. And you will find TV7 News all day, right here on The Watchdog. AM 1600 and 1370, FM 98.1 and FM 97.7, WKKX and WVLY.
Broadcasting from the Ohio Valley, talking about the Ohio Valley. We're live and local. This is the Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe.
I have said several times in the last couple of days, this session of the West Virginia legislature feels a little strange. I think partly because there was no State of the State speech to kick things off. That's usually the big kickoff event, and the governor, of course, was suffering from COVID at the time. Also, some of the biggest things that I think they're going to do, the legislature did before the session began in that special session, in terms of tax incentives and economic development offerings and so on for Nucor and others. And it just kind of seemed like I just haven't been able to get my head around what's going on down there just yet. Talked to Brad about that yesterday, Brad McElhenney, and Brad was saying somewhat the same thing. Yesterday, though, Democrats in the legislature offered a new idea for consideration, and I thought we'd talk about that this morning with the Senate Minority Leader Stephen Baldwin. Democrats proposed a sales tax cut for West. Senator, good morning. Welcome to the show. Tell me about this. What prompted this idea?
Good morning, Howard. It's nice to talk to you, and thanks for the invitation. Really last year's income tax proposal is what sparked the idea at the time. And, I think that package was just so complicated and so huge. And, you raise something here, you lower something here. People didn't think it was really going to help them, and so that's why we opposed it, and it ultimately died. But I think if you could do something that is a tax cut for everybody, that's simple and straightforward and actually helps everybody, then that would be a really good thing to do, especially right now when inflation is up due to the pandemic and people are paying more for everything that they have to buy every day. So that was the impetus for the idea. Last year in combination with the context of inflation this year. And we wanted to do it in a responsible way. You could slash the sales tax in half, but that wouldn't be responsible to the budget. So the way we proposed, we think, is something that's going to help every West Virginian and do so in a responsible way.
It is currently 6% in West Virginia sales taxes. You're proposing lowering it to 4.3%. Is that right?
That's right. A cut from 6% down to 4.75%. And if times continue to be good and the rainy day fund continues to grow, then there would be triggers to cut it by another 0.25% annually if that growth continued to happen.
And I always hate to use the word cost, but the loss to the state budget from this sales tax cut would be somewhere in the $300 million range. The budget would be about $300 off balance because of this. Is that right?
Yes, sir. The cost would be about $300 million. We're anticipating having a $700 to $900 million surplus this year. So we certainly can't afford it, and we feel like it's the people who deserve to get back something that's theirs. We also just gave, you mentioned Nucor before, we just gave Nucor pretty much the same amount of money, a little over $300 million in incentives to come here. I supported that. I think you have to do that in today's world. But this shows that we can do both. We can give money back to the people directly, and we can invest in recruiting business at the same time.
I like the idea of a sales tax cut because, just like everybody else, I don't like paying taxes, so that's helpful to
right.
me and everybody else. But I worry that our budget right now, you said we have a surplus, which we do, but I worry that a lot of that comes from backfill from federal money, from the pandemic relief programs. And I also, quite frankly, worry that the governor has kind of played some games with this surplus by purposely keeping his projections low, therefore getting higher than we thought. So is it wise to look at this big a reduction in your budget when part of the surplus that we have, a significant part, is really one-time money coming from the federal government?
I think that's a fair point, Howard, and that's why we spent some time looking at these numbers and trying to figure out what the sweet spot was. If you look at our rainy day fund right now, it's at $1 billion. $1 billion. Somebody shared the story yesterday of at the time Speaker Kiss, who we lost last year, unfortunately. The Speaker Kiss, when he introduced that concept and had a rainy day fund, he thought, we'd do really well if we had $50 million in there one day. And we're up to $1 billion. And so, this is continually funded by that rainy day fund trigger. And so, if you've got a rainy day fund that's sitting at $1 billion and you've got a budget surplus that is approaching $1 billion, then I think it's really important that you spend that investing in your people. And so this proposal is an attempt to do that. And it doesn't do all of that. It just takes part of that. I think it's really important that we have money available to patch potholes and to pay Child Protective Services workers much more than they make now. So I think this is the sweet spot that allows us to do both of those things.
The tax cuts sound like something the Republicans are always advocating. So do you expect bipartisan support for this idea? Have you talked with your majority leader, the Senate president, and others in the leadership caucus?
Yes, sir. I've talked with them about it, and I think you're right. They've been supportive of tax cuts. That is a precept of their ideology. They provided some feedback that that this might be a possibility. They have their own ideas. I think Chairman Householder was quoted yesterday as saying that he prefers to cut income tax differently than was done last year, but to work on income tax as opposed to sales tax. So I do think this will continue to be an issue. I don't know exactly which version we'll end up on this year.
Is there any serious talk about income tax? You just mentioned Householder was discussing it. I really haven't heard a lot of rumblings about the income tax cut coming back. It was the governor's big plan last year, and it just really got complicated and quite controversial, and the governor's own party ended up having some problems with the governor's proposal and so on. So do you think that's something that may come back for consideration this year as well?
Well, yeah, it's a great question. That took up all the air in the room last year. Everybody says this year down here, we're not going down that road again. That's dead. And they also said we're not going to take up any controversial bills this time. This is going to be bread and butter, straightforward session. Well, that's already not the case. I do think that income tax proposal, still has some legs. It's not going to look like it did last time because it was so unpopular. But I think a version of it will rear its head again.
When else are you expecting to see this term, Senator? Again, it's been a little hard for me to get a handle on things. It's felt like a weird term, a strange session. I think some of that has to do with having not had a State of the State speech and with some of the work being done before the session even started with the special session. But what else do you see of significance that might be coming up this session?
I think you were right in that, it's been a little bit of a weird session so far. I think the special session did play a big part in that. We had a big special session about what might be the biggest story of the session actually prior to the session. And I'm not sure if the majority thought that would be receive the bipartisan support it did, or they thought it might not. It ended up receiving significant bipartisan support and went through pretty quickly. And so we've had quite a lull afterwards. I think COVID plays a role in that. There are members gone right now, and that makes it difficult if you have key staff or key chairpersons missing. It makes it hard to move things forward. In terms of specific issues, I think you'll end up seeing a lot on infrastructure, prioritization of American Rescue Plan dollars, I think you'll see some action on broadband, which I'm very excited about, and I'm supportive of what the House is moving so far. The thing that I really hope we see action on, I mentioned before, Child Protective Services. They are severely underpaid. They have tremendously high caseloads, high vacancy rates, and these are our most vulnerable kids. And if these are kids that grow up here and are not valued and paid attention to, why would they ever want to stay? And we've got to do a much better job of taking care of their needs. The CPS workers are just put in an impossible situation, and it's incumbent upon us to help them.
Governor, at one point had talked about I guess sort of an across-the-board raise, a 5% raise for teachers and other state employees, CPS workers and others. Is that something you think is likely to surface this year?
Yes, sir, I think so. I mean, it's accounted for in the governor's budget, and the majority in the House and the Senate have both expressed support for it. Obviously, I mean, our Democratic caucuses have supported pay raises over the last couple of years, and I'm very glad we were able to get those through. 5% now, inflation was 7% last year, so 5% raise isn't even keeping up with inflation. And I'm particularly concerned about like CPS, where I really don't know if a 5% raise is going to make much of an impact when your starting salary is as low as a CPS worker's is right now. So yes, I do think that'll have traction, but I think there'll be some debate about, is it enough? And what about retirees? The proposal the governor put forward did not include retirees.
Would you suggest that maybe there should be targeted raises? In other words, CPS workers maybe a little bit more, or correctional employees. I'm not quite sure what I'm talking about here, but instead of just everybody getting 5% or 3% or whatever, that maybe you look and see who needs this the most or where are the greatest needs. You mentioned CPS workers in particular, sort of targeting them. I'm not making that recommendation. I'm just wondering if you think that makes any sense.
I do. I do think that makes sense. And if you think back to 2018, that happened. There were corrections were severely underpaid in comparison to other public employees. All our public employees in West Virginia are underpaid. But corrections officers were particularly, they were on the very low end of the scale. And so they were essentially given a larger raise at the time everyone else was given 5% to sort of catch them up. They are still in that position now, as you mentioned, and then CPS is as well. So I do think it makes sense to do that. And I think we got to target retirees too. They haven't had a cost of living adjustment in over 2 decades now. And we certainly know inflation has gone up in that time.
Well, as one who's married to a state retiree, you go for that, sir.
10-4.
I just want to say I think that's a tremendous idea to get the state retirees in there, because that's something that affects us. Your sales tax bill, has there been a bill introduced, or are you waiting for the leadership to do that, or where does that stand right now? You just announced it yesterday, so it's pretty early in the game, but what happens next?
Yes, sir, it's drafted. I didn't introduce it yet because I wanted to give my colleagues a chance to sign on to it if they want it, or to make suggestions and say, hey, I can't sign on to it just like that, but if we could tweak this, then yeah, I'd be willing to. So it is drafted, and I believe I'll be getting back a copy of it today from Legislative Services so that, if my colleagues want to sign on, they certainly can. So it will probably be formally introduced beginning of next week.
All right, sir. Senator, I appreciate your time this morning. I always do. Always good to talk to you. I thank you for dropping by, and I suspect we'll talk again as the session goes on, but I appreciate your time today. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Howard. It's good to talk to you. Hang in there. Stay safe.
All right, you too, sir. State Senator Stephen Baldwin, he is the Senate Minority Leader. The Democrats proposed yesterday in Charleston, a reduction in the state sales tax, 6% current tax rate. They're proposing taking it down to 4 3/4, with then additional drops targeted to or tied to the rainy day fund and some other financial criteria. Good idea or bad? Again, the good thing is it means we get a tax break. It means that everybody gets that, because if you buy something, you get a tax break on it. It's probably good for businesses here in the Panhandle because it makes us even more competitive with our neighboring states of Pennsylvania and Ohio. But the downside is it does cost about $312 million that will come out of the budget, and is the surplus that we have right now too dependent on the federal pandemic money? Question I don't have an answer for. It's something I think needs to be looked at. All right, Biff, do I need a break or not? Do I have to pay the bills some more?
No, we are good till 9 o'clock.
All right, well, let me just take a second here to talk about our friends at FanDuel once again. Each win means that much more in the NFL playoffs. That's why FanDuel Sportsbook is now hooking new customers up with 30-1 enhanced odds for the divisional playoffs. You bet 5, you win $150 on any team to win any divisional playoff game. Just sign up for FanDuel Sportsbook, make a deposit, and then claim your 30-1 enhanced odds. No better place to bet the NFL playoffs than on America's #1 sportsbook, FanDuel. Simple and easy to use, generous promotions every day, safe, secure, good customer service. You get your cash winnings in as little as 2 hours after the fact. That's a pretty good deal as well. Now, if you already have FanDuel, then FanDuel is hooking all customers up with $50 if you refer a friend. And if your friend accepts the referral, they get $50 as well. So don't miss your chance to win $150 off a $5 bet when you use promo code Monroe when signing up, or refer a friend if you're already a user, and you will get a $50 bonus if they sign up as well. Use my name, Monroe, in the promo code box. As always, you must be 21 or older in West Virginia, present physically here. New users only, $10 first deposit required. Must wager in designated offer market. Maximum bonus, $150. Restrictions apply. See full terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? 1-800-GAMBLER.net. Biffy, I think we'll try it again tomorrow. We'll turn things over to the Watchdogs right now, but are you back with me tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock?
I am here for a Thursday.
We'll keep on doing it till we get it right.
That could be a long time.
Indeed.
The Watchdog is FM 98.1, AM 1600 WKKX Wheeling, FM 97.7, AM 1370 WVLY Moundsville.
COVID-19 just last week. That's...
All right, Biffy, you go deal with the dogs, and I'm going to go try and deal with the flu, and hopefully everything will be fine by tomorrow. If you need me, though, I will be around today, so feel free to call me. Yep, that's what I'm going to do, and try and get more rest, and all will be well, I'm sure. But I will be here if you need me, have any problems, just give me a call. Otherwise, I'll talk to you in the morning. Yeah, I started to say I never forget to eat, but when I'm starting to feel a little punky like this, I don't feel like eating, but I know I have to, so I'll force myself to eat something. All right, do something indeed. Thanks for your help today. Always appreciate it, and I will talk to you in the morning. Bye.
Bye-bye.
They say to force senators to state their opinions publicly. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in Kiev meeting with the Ukrainian officials about the possibility of a Russian invasion of the country. ABC senior foreign correspondent Ian Pannell is also there.
After 3 meetings last week failed to bridge this divide between the US and Russia, there's of course even more pressure, I think, on this meeting on Friday. The fact that both sides are still talking is obviously good. But if this hastily arranged meeting does not produce results, then this crisis risks taking